Hello and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. You know who's not saving the world? These idiots on college campuses, these blatantly anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist freaks who, it comes from this professional class of victims and protesters, and they don't even care what the subject is. But the ones who feel like they are on the pro-woke Marxist train, they are doing a great service not only to themselves, but also to their universities, and they're making their degrees absolutely worthless at places like UCLA and Columbia. I went to UCLA. I went to UCLA when it meant something. But and I want to talk a little bit about where they're getting their marching orders and propaganda, because these are not organic ideas. They are not unique to academia. This kind of stuff has been happening for decades, really since the Vietnam War. It's like a herpes sore that just pops up every few years in some new form with some new context and some new grievance. And right now, it's just a bunch of Jew haters trying to keep Jewish students from freely associating on college campuses, which is a violation of their civil rights. Now, if you are a prospective employer and if you are looking for the next generation of go-getters to really help your company succeed, why on earth would you employ someone who's gone to one of these schools? Because that's what happens if you have an encampment that has taken over school. And even if 80% of the students there are rational, they get wrapped up in this vortex of hate and irrationality. And so anyone who's looking at a prospective employee is just going to go, why would I hire someone from Columbia? What are they going to do? Try and take over my company? Are they going to occupy the break room and, try and divest from company policy and mandates? That's what people will consider when they're hiring this class of entry-level employees. They're going to look at that and go, I don't care what your degree is in. If you in any way reek of this sort of Marxist agitator, I do not want you anywhere near my company. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. And the appeasement and pacification that is going on, not only on college campuses, but in corporate America, is absolutely disgusting and shameful. But this is what happens when you let protests become weeks-long encampments. It turns into violence. And the fact that UCLA and Columbia let this go on as long as they did just goes to show you what appeasement and pacification does. It actually creates a very dangerous environment. And yes, this is the mob. This is a mob mentality of people who don't even know why they have glommed onto and been sucked in by the mob, but they are there because they think it's righteous. And they somehow think that they have come to these conclusions on their own. Anti-Semitism has been around for centuries, and it has driven Jews into the Holocaust and genocide. But somehow we have forgotten all of those lessons, which are gross and disgusting and basic and the absolute worst of humanity. And we're not that far removed from it. But it's very interesting because the tactics they're using at UCLA, the Nazis are in hell just standing up, applauding. You are doing their work for them. But you're not just doing the work for the Nazis. You are doing work for Hamas. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with an open source private intelligence organization. And the funny thing about Gen Zers, these propagandists, you don't have to go into the gooey inner reaches of the dark web, because they broadcast everything they're doing because they're narcissists and they want everyone to stand up and applaud them. That is a generational thing. So it's actually not hard to see where this stuff is coming from. And this propaganda is being laundered directly from Hamas and Hezbollah. They are engaging with Arabic and English speakers, Americans, who are taking their propaganda videos and then they sort of reduce them and boil them down into 30-second digestible nuggets because, part of this generational victimhood, there is conversely a generational inability to pay attention to anything for longer than 30 seconds. So this Hamas propaganda is then boiled down into 30-second clips that is consumed by students for justice in Palestine and within our reach, and some of these other organizations that then take this Hamas derived propaganda and give it to their followers. They give it to these foamy mouthed, empty headed dum-dums at Columbia and UCLA and Berkeley and all these other college campuses.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
So you think that you have an original thought in your head. You think that you are a Marxist decolonialist. No, you are a mouthpiece for terrorists, and they don't like you either. There's nothing that you are going to do ever that will win you favor with terrorists. They want to bring the West down. They want to bring the American system down. Whatever aspects of it you may have an issue with in a meritocracy, you can actually come up with an idea, create a company, sell it, make money, run for office, and change the system. You don't even have to take all of those steps. If you are good at writing, if you are good at convincing people, then you can make your way into various institutions and you can change things from within. They are not changing anything from within. The only thing that they are changing is perceptions of people who actually could improve their lives, who will want nothing to do with them, because even if they don't know the exact mechanism by which propaganda is being funneled through these, do-gooder organizations that want to bring down the West, they want to kill you and your families. They want to destroy your way of life. Those perceptions are solidified, and people who could make your life better, they don't want anything to do with you. And you know what? You are anti-Semitic, and what you're doing is disgusting. And I saw one professor from Columbia boo-hooing, saying, I love this institution, but most of the Jewish students here, they're also anti-Zionist. I would love to see his data. I would love to see his polling data and who exactly he talked to, how big the sample size was, what's the margin of error, because a guy like that is completely full of shit. And so is the PhD. Well, she's not even a PhD yet. She's getting her PhD in Marxist poetry. And she's like, yeah, so we need things and we're revolutionary and nah. And then of course there's the list of needs from within UCLA. We need skate helmets and gluten-free food. You know what I'm going to give you? Gluten-free, go yourself, because that's where I'm at all of this. And as a UCLA alumna, when the Wooden Scholarship Fund calls me to offer me great basketball tickets, I'm going to tell them to go themselves too, and everyone else should, in every way possible, because maybe the thing we need to shake to the ground to its very foundation is the American academic system as it stands. Because if this is the product, and if the ultimate goal is to other people and preach hatred and call for genocide of the Jewish people, then you don't deserve a dime from me or the actual rich people who can pull their gifts from your hedge funds called university endowments. And I hope you crumble and have to file for bankruptcy. And I hope this also puts a nail in the coffin of federal student loan forgiveness, because you don't deserve it. If you want to go to one of these propaganda factories, pay for it yourself. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.